Hello, everybody. Welcome to the game stage. Woo! So we've got a very special guest this afternoon. Without further ado, I'm just going to get straight into business. Can we give a warm, actually a rapturous round of applause for Phil LaMarr?
Hey there.
Wow.
How do you do? Oh, look at that. That's a nice group. What's going on?
Please take a seat.
No.
Let's stand. I'll join you.
That's right. We'll stand like superheroes.
Funny you say that. You were a superhero in a game recently, were you not?
Yeah. Yes, usually.
Aquaman, were you not?
Yes, and Injustice. Mm-hmm.
And also, actually, superheroes in Marvel superheroes as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you
I did...
Gambit?
Wait, was I in Gambit in that one? Yeah, so it was Gambit in one of them. Black Panther in another, and The Watcher. Okay. I like playing bald. Really enjoy playing bald. So
before we kick things on, I've got to ask this question. It's got nothing to do with games, but how does it feel to get shot in the head by John Travolta?
I try never to be there when my brains are being blown out. Yeah. So yeah, it was. Again, I'm trying to remember whether I was in the car with him. There was no actual pulling of triggers while I was in the car, thank goodness.
That's a good thing, right?
Yes, it's a very good thing.
So that's a really weird scene, because that one scene set up the entire events of the film, which then bled into popular culture.
Well, that's, in Pulp Fiction, I played the part of Marvin, the guy who gets his brains blown out in the back of the car. And it was a very small part. I think there's maybe 5 or 6 lines. But I knew I could not get cut out of the movie.
Well, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, if they cut me out, then you lose the entire 45 minutes. Why are they covered in blood? Whose blood is it? Where did the blood come from? No one knows.
So, how did you get from actual acting into voice acting then?
Oh, Dan. You did not just say actual acting.
No, look, I'm sorry, that was a faux pas. But from physical acting into voice acting, is that better?
Nope.
From acting into...
Wait, is voice acting not physical? Do voices just come from the ether? No, they come out of your body.
Okay, you've got me on that one.
No. I think what you mean is, how did I get from face acting into voice acting?
Yes, that's a better way. I should have thought about that.
Because really, the only difference between voice acting and on-camera acting is you don't use your face.
There is that.
I mean, everything else is the same. You're still using your body. I mean, a singer uses their body as much as a dancer or an on-camera actor does, just in a completely different way. I started, my very first job was in a cartoon when I was in high school. After that, I did stage and film and television for many, many years. And it wasn't until after I did a comedy show on Fox in the US called Mad TV. We did... there
was a few people then cheering?
Oh, yeah. We did a few claymation pieces on Mad TV. You know, the sort of little stop-motion animation. One of them was Raging Rudolph, which was the Rankin Bass Christmas animation mixed with a Martin Scorsese movie. So it was very, very bloody, violent, but cute. And after that, I began to do more animation again. Because honestly, my very first animation job was on the Mr. T cartoon back in the 80s, which was horrible. I mean, it was a fine summer job, but it was a horrible, horrible show. It was basically a bad ripoff of Scooby-Doo. Okay. If you've never seen it, which I hope you haven't, the premise was that Mr. T, in the height of his fame, was the coach of a traveling gymnastics team that rode around in a bus solving mysteries. You know, the way that child gymnastics teams do. It was not good.
So you've done tons and tons of voices. We've actually called you the man of many voices across many mediums. Is it hard to come up with new voices and new angles? Because obviously the human voice only has certain... Well, there's a limit, right?
Well, you know what's funny is I spent many, many years trying to come up with new voices every single time. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute. The voice is only one small section of the character. The writing and the animation make up most of it. And it was funny because on the show Samurai Jack, Yeah. Thank you. Your devotion is noted. But I worked on that show most of the time with an actor named Mako. He was the voice of Aku, the evil demon wizard. Yes. And Mako, anybody who's watched the show or has ever seen anything he's done, has a very distinctive voice. Mako sounds like this in everything he does. So once they cast him in a Samurai Jack episode as another character, and me being the person like, well, it's about being as many voices as possible. You can't do. He's going to sound like the same guy. That's crazy. You can't cast him as a different character. And he proceeded to not mask his voice. He just acted the character in a completely different way than he acted Aku. And when you watch that episode, you can't tell it's the same person. And I was like, oh, it's voice acting. It's not voice acting. It's voice acting. And I realized, okay, it's not about metamorphosing every single time. It's not, you don't have to do something, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to play this character, because this character is going to be different than the other character. I mean, there's, in the Jack and Daxter games, I played a character named Sig. And Sig's a big guy. Like, yeah, come on, let's go get us some metalheads. And vocally, it's in a pretty similar place to Jon Stewart, the Green Lantern. Slightly different. I mean, but mostly the difference is tone. Like, Sig is always upbeat. He's come on, cherries. Jon Stewart is a little more serious. He's a military man. You know what I'm saying? So even though they're similar voices, they're completely different characters.
Is there certain things that you do to prepare for your roles, or is it just turn up, work out the character, or do you spend weeks trying to work out who they are, get into their mind kind of thing?
Well, the good thing about voiceover is you don't have to memorize it. It's the way you would have to do with a stage role or a film role, where you've got to memorize it, you've got to soak it into your body. That can sometimes lend itself to surface work, or in the best of cases, it lends itself to, you know, find yourself tapping into instincts without having to think about it. I tend not to do deep character study. What I do is I read the material, I talk with the creators, and really try to figure out what it is they're trying to get across, you know? And I trust them. The hardest thing to do is something that's badly written. You know, they've given you this wonderful description of what they think the character should be, but then none of it is in the writing. Then you have to work hard. So, okay, so you want him to be noble, yet sinister, yet at the same time likable, but ancient. And all you've got him doing is saying, go. Okay, let me try to get all of that into this one word. Then, yeah, that's the heavy lifting.
So you've done a lot of video games in the last 10 or so years, probably even longer, actually. Have you got a particular favorite that you like to voice?
I would have to say that the Metal Gear series was my favorite. And, hey, there it is now.
Yes, my queen. You won't believe what I found. 5 today, or rather 6.
That was... I think the reason the Metal Gear series is my favorite is because that was a series I was into before I got cast. I played the first Metal Gear game and was just like, this is amazing. You know, the cinematic aspect of it, the gameplay, the depth of the story. So when they were casting for Vamp in Metal Gear 2, I didn't even know what I was auditioning for. I was just like, I just want to audition for anything. I think I also read for the DARPA chief. You know, but just the scope of that game, the quality of that game, and the challenge of that character. I mean, it was a really, really difficult character to find. I mean, it just had to be something creepy. And I don't think it sounds like any of my other characters. So that's probably my favorite, yeah.
What was it like working with Kojima? Did you have much input from him, or was he away from the process?
No, he wasn't really. I mean, from what I understand, Kojima spent most of his time creating the game. I mean, when they come to the American voice actors, the game's already done. It's been animated to the Japanese actors' voice tracks. In fact, I remember on Metal Gear 2, in the recording studio, they set us in front of a screen, and they would play the voice track of the Japanese voice track. We wouldn't hear it, but we would see it. You know how like they have those, looks like a heart monitor? You know, it's like, you can see where the lines are. It's like, okay, while it's going up and down, that's the Japanese actor speaking. When it stops, you have to stop. So you would be sitting there watching someone else's voice track. Well, I found it. Okay, I've got to get to the end of the... You know, you'd have to make sure it, which is a difficult kind of acting. It's like, act, create, build the character, make it your own, just be done by the time he's done. So yeah, a challenge in many aspects, but also I think something that came out incredibly, incredibly well.
So you recently played a rapper in Dead Island?
Yes.
What was it like to play him? Because he's a very interesting character. There's a woo somewhere there as well.
Yeah, Dead Island I played
Sam B. I was born in New Orleans, the Ninth Ward.
The funniest thing about that is when we originally recorded it, Sam B was kind of the comic relief character.
Like this rap, hey man, and I'm like, you know, and it's like,
but then, does anybody remember the trailer for Dead Island that came out before the game, like where it ran backwards? And it was this really dark, intense thing. I mean, it was amazing. It was really not the game they had made. But it got such huge response, and they're like, oh, okay, well, we kind of have... And we had to go back in. It's like, all right, all those funny lines you did, they're cut. We need the game to be darker, more intense. So we had to re-record a bunch of the Sam B stuff. So instead of like, motherfucker, it was like, motherfucker. You know, it got very, very heavy. But, you know, there's only so heavy it can get when a rapper is cutting the heads off of zombies. Ultimately, that's just comedy.
Did you do the rap yourself?
No, well, I did a version, but then they decided to get a real musician to do it, which was a bummer.
Can you remember that version?
I wish, I honestly, I wish I could. Thank you for setting me up for something I'm going to completely fail at.
I should have warned you about that beforehand.
No, yeah, they had written something, but then this guy Jason wrote a real "Who Do You Voodoo" rap that was amazing. You know.
Do you know that one as well? Could you do that? I'm joking. So you're in Mass Effect 2, was it? You played Mouse?
See, now this is going to be really, really upsetting. I don't remember who I did in Mass Effect. Somebody sent me a clip, like, yeah, this is you in Mass Effect. And I'd watch them like, that's not me. I know that I did, there's sort of like toad-like aliens. I know I did one of those, but I think
you were the big guys.
But there was also some other character I think I did. Because, I don't know, if you've heard people talk about the video game recording process, you usually do 2 or 3 characters. And unless you're doing a major character, you know, you don't get a whole script. You don't really know what how your character fits into the whole world. They're like, here are 9 lines, and here are 15 pages of death grunts.
What's your favorite death grunt? Because you must do a lot of screaming.
My favorite one is drowning.
Drowning? How'd you do drowning?
Because you don't have to scream. You can't scream when you're drowning. It doesn't hurt. But everything else is horrible, horrible pain. And they only like it when it sounds like it really hurts. You'll do 5, you know, like, okay, now you're being cut in half with a machete. Ah! A little more, make it sound a little more painful. And until you're actually hurting yourself, like, that's great. All right, give me 5 more of those.
So have you seen the industry change over the years? Obviously, voice acting and animation, as we get forward, has got a lot more advanced. I know there's a lot more things going on, especially video games. Like we had a couple of guys, and last year Troy Baker was saying when he was doing it many years ago, he was basically wandering out of a van into another van just to record on a dictaphone kind of thing.
Right.
So have you seen that transition as well?
Yes, I mean, I think in animation and in video games, you've just seen an increase in quality. With video games, I think it's powered by the graphics are getting better, and the audience is more invested in the storytelling. I mean, before, we all know, growing up, you play these games, and there would be these awful cinematics like start. I don't want to watch this. I want to get back to the game. I don't want to hear them talk. But now, I think people, gamers are much more mature. The audience wants story. Maybe not as much as we give them, because we like to talk. But you know what I'm saying? You want to know why you're fighting more than you did in the old days. Like, there were no cinematics in Doom.
There should have been. Unless you saw the film, that was like a big cinematic, right?
Actually, I think the film needed fewer cinematics. Just get to the shooting.
So apparently you're quite a dab hand at impressions. This is what IMDb tells me. And it lists like 20 actors that you do.
Oh, yeah. Let's see.
Chris Rock's one, right? Chris Rock?
Right, yes.
I've actually got them all listed here.
Oh, you got them listed there?
So are we going to test you on this?
Who are the best ones?
Michael Jackson?
What's that?
Michael Jackson?
That is crazy, insane, but it's so magical.
Eddie Murphy?
Oh, the Eddie Murphy I stole from my castmate Aries Spears on Mad TV. It's like, listen, man, Eddie Murphy does what Eddie Murphy does.
Oh, come on, that's a good one. Hey, look. Chris Tucker.
Chris Tucker, you know what? I'm not going to say that I do the best Chris Tucker, because really doing Chris Tucker,
It's just doing the highest voice you can do, man. I just get it real up high.
Will Smith?
Oh, actually, Will Smith is one that I've actually done professionally. That Shark Tale movie, I did the video game of it. Hey, man, look. This is how we do Uncle Phil. Yeah, that's how you do it.
Morgan Freeman?
The penguin is the only animal other than human beings that mates for life.
Brilliant. Is there any more that you? Is this your party trick?
Well, I mean, my big party trick is Chris Rock.
Because everybody does Chris Rock doing his comedy. Every man's got to make a decision. Commitment? I'm not saying OJ should have done it. I'm saying I understand.
But the real trick is doing Chris Rock not on stage.
You know, there are a lot of people who ask me, Chris, why are you so loud on stage? And I'm just like, that's how I feel when I'm up there, man.
So to me, that's the trick, is being able to do like the one that everybody hears.
And then to do the other one.
Oh, brilliant. Right, I'm going to wander into the crowd because there's going to be tons of questions.
Oh, good. Well, can you see them? It's very dark out there.
It's dark and moody.
Can I see some hands? Here's hands. Look, they're all over the
Make sure
place.
you move.
Let's go here on the,
A
on the
moving
right.
target can be seen.
Here we go. Move your shoulder.
I was just wondering, I know you did the voice of Volgram in Dark Souls 2 up on the screen there. Like, I was just wondering what your experience with doing the voice for that was, because it's a lot different to the ones you've shown us today.
That was great, because we actually had Joe Magera and the creators of the game there when we did the first one, and it was done with my buddy Keith Aram, who is an amazing, amazing voice director, producer, and everything. But yeah, that was great. I have to say that, we're talking about coming up with new voices. I looked at Volgram and they described the character to me, and it, for some reason, automatically went to this sort of Mark Hamill-esque,
I am Volgram. Oh, warrior, I have things that may interest you.
And every time I did it, I kept saying, that sounds like Mark. That sounds like...
Right, here we go.
Just wait.
Is that someone? Is someone talking?
Yes.
Oh, there we go.
Did you enjoy doing Dracula on The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy?
Yes, that was a blast. I don't know if you ever... Billy and Mandy was out here, right? Yeah, which is just a really dumb, funny, really silly show. I had worked with the creator, Maxwell Adams, on another show at the same time. It's the only show I've ever worked on where we got half canceled. It was Grim and Evil. It was the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy and Evil Con Carne. And I was Hector Con Carne, the disembodied brain of an evil scientist trying to take over the world. And our half of the show got canceled. But Billy and Mandy kept going on. And Adam was great enough to bring me on to Billy and Mandy to do Dracula. And we just basically, I don't know, there's an old comedian, Red Fox. And I was just doing Red Fox. You know, Dracula. My name Dracula. Dracula don't suck. Dracula scrape, then lick. Yeah, I had a blast every time we got to do that.
Marvelous. Right at the back.
There's something on my mind. What do you think about Injustice, Gods Among Us, and Metal Gear Solid series? You know, the voice which you've performed.
What do I think about them?
Yep.
I think in a fight, Injustice would win. No, that wasn't the question. No, I enjoy both games. Those, because I'm sort of a half a gamer, because I'm very, very old. So it takes me forever to get through a game. Those are the only two games, well, not the only two, but those are two games that I definitely played all the way through, and not just to hear my characters.
Right, squeeze in here.
If I recall correctly, you voiced Sky Pirate Redus in Final Fantasy XII. He's one of my favorite characters. Did you enjoy doing voice work for Final Fantasy?
I did. The people were really great to work with. I have to admit, I did not know the breadth of the series when I did it. Wow! Oh, that's you. I didn't know the breadth of the Final Fantasy series, but being a part of that world has been really amazing.
Right, here we go.
Were you a Star Wars fan as a kid, and were you excited to be a part of Star Wars in the Clone Wars and the Old Republic? And is there a Star Wars character you would really like to voice that you haven't done yet?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Yes, I was a really big Star Wars fan. I sort of, because it came out when I was right in that sweet spot age-wise, but I sort of missed the boat. Like everybody else had seen it before I did. But obviously so incredibly formative. Being a part of that universe and getting to play a Jedi was, you know, come on. That's like getting to play on, you know, the biggest, most important field ever. I think if there was another character that, I mean, the problem, people always ask me that, like, is there a character that you would like to voice? And it's a hard thing to say because usually I know the person who's doing the voice now, so I'm like, yeah, who would I like to put out of work? James Arnold Taylor. I'd like to be Obi-Wan Kenobi and have him sit at home. And also, there's that thing of, it's hard to conceive of yourself doing a better job. I mean, characters I grew up with, you know, Batman, Spider-Man, Obi-Wan Kenobi, I would love to be the voice of, but then I listen to James doing Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I know that I can't do it better than he can. Kevin Conroy doing Batman in Arkham. You can't be more Batman than that. So it seems weird to say, yes, I would like to do a half-ass version of that. But if that person didn't exist, then I would like my half-ass version to be the version of Batman or Obi-Wan.
Right, we're here right now, right behind you, my friend.
All right. How did you feel about playing the role of Cyborg in Teen Titans?
I feel like it's something I didn't do. Because I didn't.
Uh-oh.
That was Kari Payton, who also does Cyborg in Teen Titans Go.
There we go.
But he's a very nice fella.
There have been a lot of roles that you've done, but are there any roles that you sort of like don't like to do or have just flat out refused to do? Or sort of like, what would you avoid? Just
that's
curious.
interesting. Yes. Are there jobs I would turn down? Are there checks I wouldn't cash? No. That's interesting. I suppose theoretically there could be something. I don't know if we get into a subculture of really racist video games. It's like, well, we make this mostly for the Deep South. And we need some black voices. It's mostly going to be lynching screams. Yeah, that I might turn down. Probably so.
Just wondering, how do you come up with the role for Hermes in Futurama? And if possible, could we hear an impression of that now?
Oh, yes. It's not really a game. Although there is a Futurama game, but I don't know if I'm in it.
But yes, I do the voice of Hermes. And so, I'm sorry, sir, but if you want voices done, you got to fill out the proper requisition forms. We can't just be throwing out voices willy-nilly.
Wow, brilliant. Let's squeeze
My
in here.
man witch!
It took 40 minutes for you to say that. I thought that would be the first thing you'd say.
You got to make them wait for it.
Tease.
Hi, what has been your favourite role ever?
Denzel Washington in the movie Glory. Oh, you mean of mine? Oh, I don't know. That's a very hard question. Because they all offer different aspects. I mean, being Vamp in Metal Gear is a chance to do a really unique character in an amazing series. Samurai Jack also, you know, and Futurama, I got to play with a really fantastic group of people doing amazing scripts for over a decade. I mean, I don't know. I'm just going to count myself very lucky that I have many, many favorites.
Brilliant.
Okay, so you've done a number of voices with lots of accents and stuff, but are there any accents, like with Vamp and stuff, did you have issues learning the accents, or are there any accents that you really, really can't do or hate doing or anything like that?
Huh. Well, I think most of the roles with accents that I'm really, really bad at, somebody else got the job. Trying to think if there's anything I've actually been hired to do that was just like, There was a character on a Cartoon Network show called Philly Phil, and I'm not. There is a Philadelphia accent. This sort of flat vowel thing where I don't know, where grown men sound like they're old ladies talking. And it's not one of my strong suits. Thankfully, I've never been cast to play a South African, because that is an accent that I just can't do. I mean, there's so many subtle variations on it. Usually, if I hear somebody speak and I don't know where they're from, it's usually a South African. Like, oh, God, wait, talk to me some more. Let me take it in.
Marvellous. There we go.
I was wondering if there are any truth to the rumours there's going to be a Samurai Jack film coming soon? Any secret recordings happening?
Well, it's funny because a couple of months ago, I ran into the creator of Samurai Jack, Gendy Tartakovsky, and he wants to complete the story in a 2D animated feature. It just hasn't come together yet. So hopefully it will.
Right at the back again.
And let's go to our friend Ollie Williams with weather.
Wait, what's that?
Ollie Williams, can we get a weather report?
It's raining outside. It's London weather.
All I wanted to hear, thank you.
Right, let's go here.
I have a favor to ask, if it's all right. Do you mind if you can perform 3 voices for me, if it's all right?
3?
If it's all right.
Really, that's 3 favors.
3. Okay, 1 then, if it's all right.
Okay. No, go ahead. What did you want to hear?
Vamp from Metal Gear Solid, because that's one of my favorite one of all
Did you
time.
come in late? He came in late.
Well, I came in on time, didn't I?
Did you? I don't know.
Are you immortal?
Maybe I am.
Are you late? I will never be late because I cannot die.
That's a round of applause right there, right? What were the other two? What were the... Okay. I want to straight.
Wait, no, what were the other two?
Yeah, what were they?
Aquaman from Injustice, because that's one of my second favorite as well. And lastly, one of the character from Far Cry 3, Blood Dragon.
Oh, the
T.J. Booker, was it? Was that his name?
Spider?
Spider, that was it. Who's T.J. Booker?
Oh, well, Spider was basically just some sort of quintessential Carl Weathers 80s black sidekick.
Hey, man! Look, we gotta get in there, and you gotta do your job.
But Aquaman, that one, that was actually a really specific thing because I'd auditioned for Aqualad, but again, lost the job to Kari Payton. But when they were putting him together, they set up that these people were, this is not the same Aquaman that had always been done. Greg Weisman really wanted a specific, he is a king, he is regal, but at the same time, he is not of our world, he's from another world. So Aquaman had to have the regal bearing, but at the same time, a sense of foreignness. You know, so Batman and I have decided that you are ready. You know, that sort of thing. So it was very much a mix of things. And I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Although there were times when they were speaking Atlantean, which was really tough. Like, okay, I don't know what I'm saying.
Alduram, come to me.
Let us talk in Atlantean over here in the corner. You know.
Hi. I was just wondering, what was your inspirations growing up? Like, who was your icons?
The people I really looked up to, it's sort of a weird mix. Sidney Poitier, Paul Robeson.
You can do a Sidney Poitier impression, right? Am I right in that one as well?
You know, there are so many people who don't even know who this man is anymore.
Bravo.
So yeah, I would say my biggest influences growing up were Sidney Poitier, Humphrey Bogart, and Bugs Bunny.
Interesting.
Hi. You played Mr. Sunshine in Saints Row 2. Did you enjoy that process in making Mr. Sunshine? And have you played the game? Did you enjoy the game?
I have not played Saints Row.
They didn't send me a copy.
Actually, this is embarrassing to admit, but it was so long ago, I don't actually remember the record. And it's weird, because there are some sessions, either it's because you're working with people that you've worked with before, and you remember it well because of that, or you're working with people you work with all the time, and you forget. Like, hey, remember when we worked on, wait, which one was that? You know, there's a woman named Chris Zimmerman who directed the Billy and Mandy episodes, but she also directed Metal Gear. Now, those are pretty easy to keep separated. Okay, although I was playing a vampire in both, so that's weird. But yeah, I have to be honest and say that I don't actually remember Saints Row. Sorry.
Right. We'll have two more questions, one here and one at the front.
Hi, you've partially answered this already, but is there a character that hasn't been done yet that you would like to see, actually being created and you being voiced for that?
Huh. That's interesting. And I'll give you a partial answer. I think No. I tend not to think in terms of characters. Like if I'm watching something or playing a game or reading a comic book, I don't think, oh, I'd really like to play, Invincible is a superhero comic that I really dig. And it's never occurred to me like, oh, I'd really like to do the voice of Invincible. Walking Dead, I loved the series. And I was lucky enough to get a chance to do a motion comic of the first episode and do the voice of Rick. But like when I read Walking Dead, usually it's just like, I would love to be a part of this in any way, shape, or form. That's the way I felt about Metal Gear. Are there any specific characters? I don't know. I mean, the big iconic characters, like we talked about before, Batman, Spider-Man, Superman, you'd always love to get a crack at, but then it also becomes intimidating. I know about a year and a half ago, they were auditioning for the voice of Mickey Mouse. They were looking for a new Mickey Mouse. And I would have loved to be the voice of Mickey Mouse. But it's a really intimidating process, because it's a voice that's so deep in your head that anything you do doesn't sound right. Because we've all heard Mickey Mouse's voice in our heads for so long. Like when I do that, I'm like, okay, that's pretty good, but I still hear a little bit of me. I'm like, oh, it's not right. It can be, I don't know. I'm trying to think if I've ever taken on an iconic character like that. Not really. But if I had gotten Mickey Mouse, I would be bragging about it today.
Right, and here we go. The last question.
Better be a good one. It's going to be
when
the
you-
best question ever.
Probably not. But when you were cast into Transformers Animated...
Oh! No.
Was there sort of any challenges sort of doing a robot rather than something that was actually sort of a living creature or anything?
Well, I mean, no, because if you listen to the way they voiced Transformers, almost nobody is doing a robot voice. We're all just playing the characters. I think the closest thing to a robot voice was the one I did, the voice of Omega Supreme. But even that wasn't about him being a robot as much as him just being almost as big as a planet.
I am Omega Supreme.
The toughest thing about Transformers Animated was following like we were talking about, following in the steps of somebody iconic. I mean, the previous Jazz was voiced by Scatman Crothers. And to be able to do a character that he did, I mean, his voice is, again, one of those voices that's just so deep in your head. It's like, okay, now Jazz says, no, he can't sound like, because they didn't want him to sound, they didn't want it to be an impression. They wanted a whole new Jazz. And I think the voice we settled on, to me, sort of harkened back to the original voice without being an imitation. But it's weird because you get these things in your head. I remember I did an episode of Scooby-Doo once. And there's a guy named Casey Kasem who does the voice of Shaggy. We read through the script at the beginning of the day, and Casey wasn't there. I think he was off doing his radio show. And Tom Kenny, who does the voice of SpongeBob, did a temporary reading in of Shaggy. And Tom does a really good Shaggy, Scoob. I mean, it sounded like, wow. We're all thinking, that is a really good Shaggy. And then later on, Casey Kasem showed up and, got on mic. Said, Casey, can you just say a few lines so we can get a level for the microphone? And then Casey Kasem started doing Shaggy. And the difference between Tom Kenny's really, really good Shaggy and the real Shaggy was like like when you heard the real Shaggy, it made the hair on the back of your neck stand up. It made you 10 years old sitting in front of the TV again. There's something about it's like your parents' voice. Like your mother's voice now doesn't sound the same as it did when you were 4. but it kind of does. You know, like when you hear your mother's voice, it's her voice, no matter what. Same thing with these voices, with Scatman Crothers or with Shaggy. When you hear the real thing, it gets a visceral reaction from your body in a way that even the best imitation can't. So that was a sort of roundabout long answer to me not doing Scatman Crothers, and not doing a robot voice in Transformers. But I think I've used up all our time.
Brilliant. Yes, we've come to the end. Thank you very much. Can I get a huge round of applause, please?
Thank you guys all for coming. Thanks for all your questions.
You're amazing, Phil. Thank you. Folks, do stick around. We're about to use Oculus Rift. You know Oculus Rift? Virtual reality? Oculus Rift, heard of it? Virtual reality? Oh. We're about to show it off, and it's going to be a little bit mental. So please do stick around. It's going to be amazing. It's the future of video games. Thanks, folks.